October 11th, 2025. Paramedics rushed to a home in Los Angeles just after 8 in the morning. Inside, one of Hollywood's most beloved actresses is fighting for her life. Days earlier, friends had seen her at Jack Nicholson's birthday celebration, laughing, vibrant, completely herself. Now, bacterial pneumonia is shutting down her lungs. Within hours, Diane Keaton will be gone. She was 79 years old. She had 4 Academy Award nominations to her name. She had romanced 3 of the most famous men in Hollywood history, and she had walked away from all of them, choosing to build a life that belonged entirely to her. But this story is not just about how she died. It is about a woman who spent 5 decades breaking every rule Hollywood tried to impose on her. She never married despite romances with Woody Allen, Al Pacino, and Warren Beatty. She became a mother in her 50s when most actresses were fighting for grandmother roles. She turned men's clothing into high fashion and made neurotic characters lovable. She won an Oscar playing a version of herself and proved that aging does not mean disappearing. From a girl who dropped out of college to chase impossible dreams, to a legend whose final chapter came far too soon. This is the life, the legacy, and the heartbreaking end of Diane Keaton. Diane Hall entered the world on January 5, 1946, in Los Angeles, California. Her father Jack worked in real estate and civil engineering. Her mother Dorothy was a homemaker and amateur photographer who had once won a local pageant for homemakers in Los Angeles. That pageant would plant a seed. Young Diane watched her mother on that stage and felt something stir inside her. The theatricality of it all, the lights, the attention, the transformation. She wanted that feeling for herself. The Halls were not a Hollywood family. They lived ordinary lives in ordinary neighborhoods. Jack was half Irish through his mother's side. Dorothy raised the children in the Methodist faith. There were 4 kids in total, and Diane was the eldest. She grew up in a home where creativity was encouraged, but stardom was never expected. Her mother's photography hobby filled the house with images, teaching young Diane to see the world through frames and compositions. It was an early lesson in visual storytelling that would serve her well decades later. But Diane was not ordinary. By the time she reached high school in Santa Ana, California, she had thrown herself into every singing and acting club she could find. She starred as Blanche Dubois in a school production of A Streetcar Named Desire. It was a demanding role for any actress, let alone a teenager. Tennessee Williams had written Blanche as a woman unraveling, clinging to delusions because reality had become unbearable. Playing her required emotional vulnerability that most high schoolers could not access. But something about playing broken, complicated women felt natural to Diane. She understood Blanche in ways she could not explain. After graduation in 1963, she enrolled at Santa Ana College and later Orange Coast College to study acting. But the classroom could not contain her ambitions. Professors taught technique and theory. Diane wanted stages and audiences. After just 1 year, she made a decision that terrified her family. She dropped out. She packed her bags. She moved to New York City to become an actress. The city did not welcome her with open arms. She was just another girl with a dream in a city full of them. Manhattan in the mid-1960s was crowded with aspiring performers, all competing for the same handful of roles. She enrolled at the neighborhood playhouse to study her craft. Money was tight. To pay the bills, she moonlighted as a nightclub singer, performing in small venues where nobody knew her name. She would revisit this nightclub experience throughout her career, bringing pieces of it to roles in Annie Hall and other films. But there was a problem with her actual name. When she tried to register with Actors' Equity, she discovered another Diane Hall had already claimed it, so she took her mother's maiden name. Diane Hall became Diane Keaton. The transformation was complete. The rejections piled up. Audition after audition ended in silence. She was too quirky, too nervous, too different. The industry wanted polished perfection. Diane Keaton was anything but. Casting directors saw her awkwardness as a liability. They did not yet understand that her nervous energy would become her greatest asset. Still, she kept showing up. She kept auditioning. She kept believing that somewhere, somehow, there was a place for someone like her. Then came an audition for a strange new Broadway musical. It was about hippies. It featured nudity. It was called Hair, and it was about to change everything. But Hair was just the beginning. The connections she would make in New York would lead her to opportunities she could not have imagined. A comedic genius was about to discover her. A legendary director was about to cast her in one of the greatest films ever made, and a single role would turn her into a fashion icon overnight. None of it happened by accident. All of it happened because she refused to give up. Hair opened on Broadway in 1968. Diane Keaton was part of the ensemble cast, one face among many in a production that shocked and delighted audiences with its celebration of counterculture. It was not a starring role, but it was a beginning. She was a working actress now. She belonged. The following year brought something even more significant. Woody Allen was casting his new comedic play, Play It Again, Sam. He needed a romantic lead. Diane auditioned. She got the part. The chemistry between them was immediate and electric. Critics took notice. She earned a Tony nomination for her performance. More importantly, she had found a creative partner who understood her in ways no one else did. Their professional collaboration would span 8 films. Their personal relationship would become one of Hollywood's most whispered-about romances. But before Woody Allen would make her a star, Francis Ford Coppola would make her a legend. In 1972, Coppola was casting The Godfather. Diane showed up to audition, having never read the novel. She had no idea what part she was reading for. She stood there alongside dozens of other women, completely unprepared, hoping someone would give her a chance. They cast her as Kay Adams, the woman who would become Michael Corleone's wife. Here is where the story becomes extraordinary. Diane Keaton was cast before Al Pacino secured his role. The studio executives did not want Pacino for Michael. They thought he was wrong for the part. Diane was already confirmed when they brought Pacino in for another audition. She stood there watching as he performed. The studio finally relented. They gave him the role that would define his career. The Godfather became one of the greatest films ever made. Diane Keaton brought quiet dignity to Kay Adams, a woman who watches the man she loves transform into a monster. She was the outsider looking in, the moral compass in a world that had abandoned morality entirely. It was a role that required subtlety. Anyone could play a victim. Diane played something more complex. She played a woman who chose to look away from evil because facing it would destroy everything she believed about the man she married. She returned for the sequel in 1974, and later for the third installment in 1990. Each time, she found new layers of heartbreak in a character trapped by forces she could never control. The Godfather films made her famous, but they did not make her an icon. That transformation required something more personal, something that would blur the line between actress and character until no one could tell where one ended and the other began. But it was Annie Hall in 1977 that would cement her place in cinema history. Woody Allen did not just cast her in the film, he wrote it for her. He built the character around her mannerisms, her speech patterns, her quirks. He even used her real birth name for the character. Annie Hall was Diane Keaton, and Diane Keaton was Annie Hall. The line between actress and role dissolved completely. The film won 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. Diane Keaton took home the Oscar for Best Actress. Overnight, she became more than a star. She became a cultural phenomenon. Women everywhere started copying her look. The oversized men's shirts, the vests and ties, the bowler hats and khakis. Fashion magazines declared her a style icon. She had not followed trends. She had created them. What audiences saw on screen was not performance. It was authenticity. And America could not get enough of it. The romance between Diane and Woody Allen eventually ended. So did their era of constant collaboration. But something remarkable happened afterward. Most Hollywood romances leave wreckage behind. Former couples avoid each other. Projects collapse. Friendships disintegrate. Diane Keaton and Woody Allen remained close. They continued to support each other's work. Their creative partnership had transformed into something more durable than romance. It had become mutual respect, and Diane was just getting started. The roles that would define the next 3 decades of her career were waiting. Roles that would prove she was far more than Woody Allen's muse. Roles that would make her America's favorite movie star. Success brought opportunities. It also brought scrutiny. The press wanted to know about her romantic life. The names attached to hers read like a Hollywood Hall of Fame. Woody Allen, Al Pacino, Warren Beatty, 3 of the most famous men in the industry. 3 relationships that captivated the tabloids. Each romance was intense. Each eventually ended. And after each ending, Diane Keaton made a choice that baffled observers. She did not marry any of them. She did not marry anyone. In an industry obsessed with weddings and power couples and fairy tale endings, Diane Keaton remained single. Interviewers asked her about it constantly. Why no marriage? What was she waiting for? She had an answer, though it frustrated those who wanted drama. She simply did not want to make those sacrifices. The compromises that marriage required did not appeal to her. She valued her independence too much. She had built a life on her own terms and saw no reason to change. Her career continued to flourish through the decades that followed. The 1980s brought Reds, which earned her another Academy Award nomination. She played journalist Louise Bryant, opposite Warren Beatty's John Reed, bringing emotional complexity to a real historical figure. The film proved she could carry prestige dramas as easily as romantic comedies. Then came the roles that would introduce her to entirely new generations. Father of the Bride in 1991 cast her alongside Steve Martin as the parents of a bride-to-be. The film was a massive hit. Its sequel followed 4 years later. Suddenly, Diane Keaton was America's favorite movie mom. She brought warmth and wit to a role that could have been forgettable in lesser hands. First Wives Club in 1996 reunited her with Bette Midler and Goldie Hawn. The 3 actresses played women getting revenge on the husbands who had discarded them. The film became a cultural touchstone, proof that audiences wanted to see women of a certain age take control of their narratives. Something's Gotta Give in 2003 paired her with Jack Nicholson in a romantic comedy that defied Hollywood's youth obsession. She earned her fourth Academy Award nomination for the role. She was 57 years old. Most actresses her age were being offered grandmother parts. Diane Keaton was still playing the romantic lead, but perhaps her most radical choice had nothing to do with film. In 1996, at the age of 50, Diane Keaton adopted a daughter named Dexter. 5 years later, at 55, she adopted a son named Duke. She became a mother on her own terms, without a husband, without apology. Motherhood changed her in ways she had not expected. She once explained that before children, her worries had been selfish. Now she worried constantly about them, secretly, the way all parents do. The American Film Institute honored her with a Lifetime Achievement Award in 2017. Woody Allen presented it, decades after their romance had ended, but their friendship endured. At the ceremony, instead of giving a speech, she sang. The song was one she had performed in Annie Hall 40 years earlier. It was pure Diane Keaton, unexpected, authentic, utterly herself. She had proven something that Hollywood still struggles to accept. A woman does not need a husband to be complete. A woman does not need to follow the traditional path to find happiness. Diane Keaton had built an extraordinary life filled with children, friends, creative fulfillment, and purpose. She had done it all on her own terms. But what made her truly special went deeper than her career choices or her personal decisions. It was something in her character that colleagues noticed from the very beginning, something that set her apart from every other star in the industry. What separated Diane Keaton from other stars was something difficult to define. Her co-stars tried to capture it in interviews over the years. She was generous on set, more interested in making others look good than in hogging the spotlight. She arrived prepared, but remained open to improvisation. She brought creative ideas and elevated every scene she touched. There was no competitive edge to her, no Hollywood ego. The industry is filled with performers who project warmth on camera but reveal coldness behind closed doors. Diane Keaton was the opposite. What audiences saw was exactly who she was. That authenticity extended beyond her acting. She became passionate about architectural preservation, fighting to save historic buildings from demolition. She wrote memoirs that offered insight into her creative process and personal journey. Her audiobook recording of Joan Didion's work earned nominations and acclaim, proving her talents extended well beyond the screen. Her style remained iconic into her 70s. Fashion magazines continued to feature her. Young women continued to copy looks she had pioneered decades earlier. She proved that aging did not mean becoming invisible or irrelevant. It meant evolving, adapting, continuing to define your own aesthetic regardless of what trends surrounded you. In recent years, she showed no signs of slowing down. Book Club in 2018 paired her with Jane Fonda, Candice Bergen, and Mary Steenburgen. Its sequel followed. She appeared in the Justin Bieber music video for Ghost in 2021, proving she could still surprise audiences and cross generational boundaries. Her final film role came in Summer Camp in 2024, alongside Kathy Bates and Alfre Woodard. She was 78 years old and still working. When interviewers asked about her legacy, she brushed the question aside. She claimed she did not think about it. The work was done. Time to move on. She did not believe there would be a legacy to speak of. It was a remarkable statement from a woman who had reshaped American cinema. 4 Academy Award nominations, 1 win, countless iconic performances, a fashion revolution that still influences designers today. and she genuinely believed none of it would be remembered. She was wrong, profoundly wrong. But that humility was part of what made her beloved. She never acted like a star. She never demanded special treatment. She showed up, did brilliant work, and went home without the drama that consumes so many of her peers. The spring and summer of 2025 passed like any other period in her life. She attended events. She saw friends. She remained engaged with the world around her. At 79, she still had energy, still had curiosity, still had that spark that had defined her for more than 5 decades. No one knew it would be her last season. Early October 2025 seemed like any other month. Friends saw Diane Keaton at Jack Nicholson's birthday party. She was laughing, present, full of life. Nothing suggested what was coming. Then, her health declined. It happened quickly, suddenly. Even her closest friends did not know how sick she had become. Her family chose to keep her condition private, surrounding her with love in her final days. On the morning of October 11th, 2025, paramedics received a call from her Los Angeles home around 8 o'clock. They transported her to St. John's Health Center in Santa Monica. She died that same day. The cause was bacterial pneumonia. She was 79 years old. No autopsy was performed. The death appeared to be from natural causes. Her body was cremated. Her family released a statement asking for privacy and expressing gratitude for the outpouring of love from fans around the world. The tributes arrived like a flood. Jane Fonda wrote that Diane had always been a spark of life and light, someone who giggled constantly at her own foibles and remained limitlessly creative in everything she touched. Bette Midler called her hilarious and completely original, someone without any of the competitiveness expected from such a massive star. What audiences saw, Midler emphasized, was exactly who Diane really was. Her family asked that anyone wishing to honor her memory consider donating to a local food bank or animal shelter. She had loved her animals. She had been steadfast in her support of the homeless community. These were the causes that mattered to her. AMC Theaters announced they would re-release Annie Hall and Something's Gotta Give for special one-week runs. It was a fitting tribute. Those films captured everything that made her special. The wit, the warmth, the refusal to be anything other than herself. Directors who had worked with her shared memories of a professional who came prepared but remained spontaneous. Someone who brought ideas to every scene and elevated everyone around her. Actors who had shared the screen with her remembered her kindness, her willingness to let others shine, her complete absence of ego in an industry drowning in it. The news hit particularly hard because it came without warning. There had been no public illness, no decline that fans could prepare for. One moment, she was at a birthday party, laughing with old friends. The next moment, she was gone. The suddenness made the loss feel sharper, more cruel, more unfair. She is survived by her children, Dexter and Duke. They grew up with a mother who showed them that success does not require following someone else's script. That independence is not loneliness. That authenticity is the greatest gift you can offer the world. Diane Keaton once dismissed the idea of legacy. She thought people would forget. She could not have been more wrong. Her films remain. Her fashion influence endures. Her example inspires. She showed women everywhere that you could be successful without conforming, that you could be a mother without a husband, that you could age without disappearing, that you could be quirky and nervous and different and still become a legend. The world lost something irreplaceable on October 11th, 2025. The woman who made neurotic adorable. The woman who turned men's clothing into high fashion. The woman who lived entirely on her own terms until the very end. Goodbye, Diane Keaton.